Hello, so in this video we're going to look at if statements, also known as conditional statements in Python, sometimes called if-else statements, if-elif else statements, and they're really useful in programming. They effectively allow your programs to make decisions. They choose which lines of code to execute using conditions. So we're going to look at how to do that. We're going to start with a really simple example to begin with. So let's go. So I'm going to create a variable first called sales, and I'm going to input a number into sales. Okay, so I'm going to write a really simple if statement here. So we just need the if keyword, and then after that we need a condition. So this is it's also known as a Boolean condition. Because it evaluates to either true or false. So here I've got a condition, and at the end of an if statement, like so, you need a colon in Python. So what this means is if sales is greater than 200, so if it's true that sales is greater than 200, then we're going to execute what's inside this block of code here. So I'll type a line of code to show you. So if it's true that sales is greater than 200, I'm going to output a message saying great sales. All right, so we know that this line of code is what happens if sales is greater than 200 because it's indented across like so. So that means that this line of code is part of this block of code that will execute if this is true. Okay, so if I have another line of code after that, which is print finished. Okay, I'll move that there. So print finished should print anyway if sales is greater than 200 or not, because it's after that. So if sales is greater than 200, it should print great sales and then print the word finished after. But if sales is less than 200, it should just print finished. So let's give this a go. Okay. All right, so if I enter 5, yeah, it just prints finished. It doesn't print great sales because the sales, which is 5, is not greater than 200. So if I run that again, if I enter 205, it prints great sales and it also prints finished as well. Okay, so in your program you can have multiple if statements. So I'm going to write another one here. So also if sales equals, just to show you the different types of conditions you can have. So if sales equals 1000, I also want to print 1000 sales. So what do you think will happen if I enter 1000 into sales? What do you think it should print? Let's have a look. So if I enter 1000, it will print great sales and it will print 1000 sales as well, because both those conditions were true. And this, like a program, this executes top down. So it evaluates each line of code from the top one at a time. So it evaluates this line of code first, then it evaluates this line of code. If this is true, it prints this code. Once it's done that, it goes to the next one, evaluates that condition, and if that's true, it'll print this line of code. Okay, let's have a look at another example then. So, okay, I'm going to create a variable called password. I'm going to have a message saying enter the password. Okay, so now I'm going to write an if statement. I'm going to write an if-else statement. So if password equals, I'm just going to make something up here, ABC. That's not a very good password, but okay, colon. Oh, I'm missing the double equals. So I need the double equals because double equals means you're comparing two values to see if they're equal to each other. A single equals is where you're just assigning a value from the right to the variable on the left. Okay, so if I didn't have that colon at the end, when I press enter, it wouldn't do the indentation automatically for me. So I need to make sure so I don't have to do the indentation myself. I'm going to add a code on there. So I'm just going to have something simple. If the password is equal to ABC, so password accepted. Okay, and then I'm now going to have an else, which you can only use an else with there's an if statement before as well. So what this means is if this isn't true, so if password equals ABC, execute this block of code. Okay, and if this isn't true, that password is equal to ABC, so it's not equal to ABC, it's going to automatically do the block of code that's in the else part. Okay, now I keep calling it a block of code because you could have multiple lines of code in that else block. So I could have 3 print statements here in this else block. So this whole block of code will execute only if password is not equal to ABC. So this is how it's making a decision. It's either going to choose that line of code or this block of code here. Okay, but I'm actually just only going to have one print statement, which will be password rejected. Okay, let's see what that does. So enter password. If I enter something wrong, it says password rejected. And if I enter ABC, it says password accepted. There we go. Okay, so another example. So we can use something called an Elif, which is short for else if. So for this example, I'm going to get a choice from the user. So this is really useful if you want to have like a menu in your program. You can get the users to enter a choice. So here the user has to enter A or B, and I'm going to store that in a variable called choice. So here I'm going to have an if statement. So if choice equals A, okay, print chosen A. So if I've got multiple paths that I want to capture in my if statement, so there's multiple different paths here. So they could enter A, they could enter B, or they could enter something that isn't A or B. So if I want my program to do 3 different things based on that, if it's A, or if it's B, or if it's something that isn't A or B, then I can use an if statement with an elif as well. So if choice equals A, print chosen A, else if, so here if you've got an elif or else if, you can add another condition to check. So if it's not A, what about if it's B? Okay, if it's B, then do this block of code, which again I'm only going to have one line of code, chosen B, and then as part of that you can still have the else at the end. The else always has to go at the end. So if it's not A, if it's not B, then it must be the else part. Then we have to do the else part of the code. You have not chosen A or B. Okay, so let's test that, see if that works. So let's see if we choose A, you chosen A, B, chosen B, and let's say C, you have not chosen A or B. Okay. All right, and so like as one more example, a further extension of that. So let's say we have some marks to enter for a test, for example. Enter number of marks. Okay, and we want to grade that test based on the marks. So if marks is greater than 70, then we want to print grade C. We want to give them a C if they get 70 or above. However, if the marks are greater than 80, print grade B. Elif. So you can have multiple elifs. So you can have multiple conditions. You can have as many as you want. So if it's greater than 90, print grade A. And if it's not above 70, 80 or 90, print grade D. Okay. Now let's give this a go. I wonder if any of you can spot what's wrong with this. So enter number of marks. So if I enter, okay, 72, I should get a C. Okay, that works. If I enter 40, I should get a D, grade D. But if I enter 94, I should get an A. But I don't, I get a C. And that's because these if statements, again, they work top down. So it evaluates the first condition first, right? And in an if statement where you've got multiple conditions, like so, we've got a condition here, another condition here, another condition here. It's only going to execute one of these blocks of code. Okay, it's not going to end. It's not going to execute multiple. It's not going to evaluate. It's going to execute the block of code that it runs into where the condition for that block of code is true first. So it checks if marks is greater than 70. If that's true, then it's going to, which when we enter 94, 94 is greater than 70. So it's going to print grade C. That's true. And then it's done that block of code. It's not going to bother evaluating the rest of the conditions or doing the else statement because it's already evaluated one condition, the one at the top, and that's true. So it's going to do that one. Okay, so to fix that, I want to put the highest mark at the top. Then I will leave 80 there, put 70 there, and then I'm going to swap grade A and C around. So now when we do it, it should work. So if I enter 94, I get an A. If I enter 84, I get a B. If I enter 77, I get a C. And if I enter something less than that, I still get a D. So yeah, those are the different ways you can use if statements. You can have them on their own. You don't need to have an else part. You don't need an elif. You can have multiple if statements if you in one program. You can also have an if statement within an if statement. So here, for example, you could have if marks is greater than 99, print amazing. So if I get a grade 99, I should get a grade A and amazing, or should I put 100? Grade A, amazing. So you can have an if statement within an if statement. So this if statement block will only be evaluated if this whole block here, if marks is greater than 90. So this is all the block of code that will get executed if marks is greater than 90. But this will only get executed if marks is greater than 99. So yeah, so there's a few different types of if statements and styles of if statements. Thanks for listening.